Hi everyone, welcome to my yoga YouTube channel. My name is Meg and today I am going to show you how to do down facing dog pose or Adho Mukha Svasana. This is probably one of the most famous poses that everybody thinks of when they think of yoga, but it's probably one of the most important poses, especially if you're learning like vinyasa flow yoga and you're flowing and transitioning. You'll often do several down dog poses, and it's also really good for transitioning from one pose to another. But also it's just such a good pose for flexibility in all across the back body, but also strength as well in the arms and in the legs. In this class, I'm going to show you how to get into the pose and how to get into it correctly, and then with a modification, and then also potentially coming into some variations as well. So some different ways that you can practice this pose. You don't really need anything to practice. If you are completely new to yoga or you've never done a down dog before, I'd recommend having 2 yoga blocks at the ready just in case, but you don't necessarily need them. And if you haven't got yoga blocks, just go without. Don't do like cushions on a hardwood floor or anything like that, because they might just slip out from underneath you. So if you're not going to use yoga blocks, just don't worry about it. You don't have to use them at all, and when you're ready we will get started. So to come into your downward facing dog, we're going to begin in a tabletop. Hands are underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips. We're going to make sure the index or middle finger is facing forward and your hands are spread. So your fingers are spread and your index or middle finger is spun to face the top of the mat. Your inner elbows are also spun to face the top of the mat, and this is quite a key point. We want a soft bend behind the elbows so you're not completely locking them out. Your knees are underneath your hips and your feet are behind your knees to make sure that you get into the correct position here. When you're ready, we'll flex the toes, we'll take the hips back towards the heels, lift the knees and lift the bum all the way up to come into your down facing dog. If you need to take a deep bend into your knees and lift your heels here, that's absolutely fine, but do not bend into your arms. Focus on pushing your arms away from you. It's like you're pushing the floor and the mat away from you. Your feet should be hip width apart with your toes facing forwards. Like I said, you can bend into the knees and lift your heels if you want, but your hips are coming up towards the ceiling. We're then taking the chest in towards the thighs, gazing at the space between your knees, pushing through your arms so your shoulders are coming up by your ears, and externally rotating your shoulders. So you're trying to bring your inner elbows up to face the top of the ceiling, keeping your index or middle finger facing forwards. We're engaging through the body here. If this feels good, you can stay here, maybe bend into one knee and then the other. This is one of my favorite things to do to warm up in my down dogs. You can also bend into one knee and take the knee over to the opposite side to open up through the hips. And you can also roll up onto the toes and down. Now, if your down dog feels absolutely horrible and it just doesn't feel good at all, this is where you can start to bring your blocks. So you'll come and do the same thing again. You'll start in your tabletop with your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips, index or middle finger facing forward and your inner elbows spun to face the top of the mat. Flexing the toes, hips come back towards the heels, up and back. But this time we're coming into our down dog with the hands onto our blocks. Now this is really good at helping if you find that your hamstrings are really tight, because you've got a little bit of lift through this part, through the top part of the body. So it's good at kind of stretching out the ankles and getting them to touch the floor. So you can do this with or without a block, whatever feels best for you. And I'm going to show you a couple of different variations from your down dog and some different things that you can do. Some will be easier than others, and some you'll probably find you'll practice more than others. So let's start up in our down dog. Getting nice and comfortable here. And like I said before, the first things you can do is bend into one knee and then the other. Take one knee over to the opposite side. And this is going to stretch out through your hamstrings and hips. You can also roll up and down onto your toes. One of the most common things you will do in yoga, especially in vinyasa, is come into your 3-legged dog. So you're lifting one leg up, squaring those hips forward, so don't let your hip roll up to the side. You want to keep it squared forward, squeeze through your glute and come up onto the toe. You can pulse your leg here maybe, or you can do the same thing on the other side. push through your hands, squeeze through your glutes, and then we can come and take this into a different variation. You can also take this into your scorpion, so you can lift up the back leg, bend into that knee, and start to take it over to the side. So you're kind of lifting your right hip up towards the ceiling. So this is a different variation. Starting your down dog, open up the hip, and then bend into the knee. If you want to work more on your upper body, there are quite a few different drills that you can do that is going to warm up through your shoulders. So you can do things like move your shoulders up towards your ears and then shrug them back down. And this will help build strength in your shoulders. You can also do your cat-cow spines here as well. So you can kind of lift, tuck the tailbone, lift it up towards the ceiling, tuck and lift. You can come into spinal waves, which is quite advanced. And I have got a breakdown of how to do them if that feels uncomfortable. And if you don't understand as well what I mean by cat-cow spines, I have got a breakdown which I'll pop at the top of how to do your cat-cow spine so you understand how to move through the spine and what I mean by that. Building strength into the arms and building some balance. We'll come back up into your down dog and maybe just start to move and lift one hand up, place it back down and swap over to the other side. So starting to learn to lift the hands, and maybe you can take one hand away and swap over. Again, always doing this step by step. And if you can lift one hand, you can see if you can grab the opposite ankle and push your chest through. Maybe trying the same on the other side. So my left hand is coming on the inside of my right leg, grabbing hold of the ankle and gazing up underneath the right arm. If it doesn't reach the ankle, you can hold on to the calf. But obviously the further down you come, the deeper the stretch is going to be. When we talk about transitioning through down dog, there are several different ways that you can do this. Usually that very first movement I showed you of coming into your three-legged dog, that tends to be kind of the most common one that people will do to start off. And then you'll come into what's called a tiger curl, or maybe bringing your leg out to the side. So I will show you those two transitions, but there are so many different ways that you can move through your down dog. So you can start up, lifting up the back leg to come into your three-legged dog, up onto the ball of the toe, bend into the knee, bring the knee in towards the chin and the chest, roll forwards and step the foot down. And this can take you into your lunges or your low lunges or your high lunges. It can take you into your easy twists. So it's kind of how you'll move through. You can also do the same thing, but coming into your lizard lunge instead, and either having your back knee down into a low lunge or a high lunge. You can come through and bring the knee behind the elbow in your down dog, and then come into a pigeon pose. So lifting up the back leg, stepping it through to sit behind the elbow and down, and slowly come back into a pigeon pose. And you can also kick the leg out. So if you are in your down dog, you could kick the leg out. So roll up over to the opposite side, kick the leg out to come into your fallen triangle. So there's quite a few different things and different variations that you can do in your down dog that kind of move you and transition you. You can also dip the hips down to come into a cobra. So you could come up, roll, and take your hips down to come into a cobra. You could also move through your down dog into chaturangas. This is something that I have got on my chaturanga breakdown video. So if that's something that you would like to learn, go and have a little watch at that, and that will show you how to break down or how to move from your down dog into a chaturanga and then into cobra. So it's like a little mini flow that's going to build a lot of strength. And those spinal waves as well are always a nice thing to add in. They really work on the arms. I showed you those right at the beginning. They're quite advanced, but maybe have a little look at my breakdown video on how to do that to get some clarity and to understand and to move through that, because they can make you feel, that's one of my favorite poses is spinal waves. So highly recommend having a little look at that. There are so many different things that you can do with down dog. There's a reason that it's the most famous yoga pose. It's hard, it's challenging. There's a lot of different ways you can go with it, but it's so rewarding. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped you to feel a little bit more confident and gain a bit more clarity, or maybe have a little bit more fun with your down dogs in all those different variations. And I look forward to practicing with you all again soon. Thanks. Bye.